The first thing I saw when I opened the bridal suite door was not the dress. It was Serena Vale's hand around another woman's wrist. The second thing was the contract on the vanity. The third was Serena's mouth, dangerously close to the other woman's, both of them breathing like they'd either just fought or just made a terrible decision together. And then my camera clicked. Not on purpose, just a small, traitorous sound from my Leica as my finger tightened around it. In that room, with the sea outside the terrace doors and the lace curtains lifting in the morning wind, it sounded like a gunshot. Serena turned first, barefoot, cream trousers, black silk blouse, dark hair loose over one shoulder. Her expression sharpened into something that could have cut glass. The other woman, tall, blonde, diamond bracelet, a face I recognized from business magazines, stepped back immediately. For one long second, nobody moved. Then Serena said, very quietly, "Give me the camera." If you want the private continuation of this story, the version that could never stay on YouTube, the photographs Serena asked me not to publish, and what happened after she closed the suite door behind me, it's on Patreon. Link in the description. But I should start earlier. 12 hours before I accidentally walked into the bridal suite of the most intimidating woman on the Amalfi Coast, I was in Capri arguing with Vittoria Carrera over coffee and self-preservation. "You're overthinking it," Vittoria said. "No, I'm thinking exactly enough." She sat across from me on the shaded terrace of her villa, long fingers wrapped around an espresso cup that probably cost more than my first camera lens. Vittoria was one of the only women on Earth who could make silence feel like a trap she'd already laid. "You photographed singers, designers, hotel founders, 2 actresses, 1 politician's wife, and that terrifying art dealer in Florence who kept trying to seduce me between lighting changes." She wasn't terrifying. She was French and persistent. Vittoria did not smile. "Serena Vale asked for you by name." That was the problem. I looked out toward the water flashing beyond the stone wall. "Which means she's either done research," I said, "or she likes control." "Both." "Great." Vittoria set down her cup. "She owns Casa Azzurra." I looked back at her. Everyone in southern Italy knew Casa Azzurra, one of those cliffside resorts people described with words like legendary, old money, impossible. Weddings, film stars, private galas, discreet scandals. If beautiful women in silk were ever going to ruin your emotional stability, that was the correct venue. "She's launching a rebrand," Vittoria said. "Corporate images, editorial assets, investor packet, press refresh. She wants the hotel to look less like a fading dynasty and more like a woman who still intends to win." That sounds incredibly healthy. "It sounds expensive." "That too." I watched her face. "Why me specifically?" Vittoria paused for exactly long enough to tell me she knew more than she intended to say. "She saw the portrait series I had you shoot." That's still not an answer. "It's the only one I'm giving you. You're editing again." "Always." I sighed. There were worse problems than being sent to a cliffside resort to photograph a famous, probably arrogant woman in linen, but I'd been doing this long enough to know that when a powerful woman requests privacy, exclusivity, and a specific photographer, there's usually a reason that has nothing to do with good lighting. "What am I walking into?" I asked. Vittoria looked at me over the rim of her cup. "A board meeting tomorrow evening. A gala tomorrow night. Rumors of a sale. Family pressure. Investor tension." A pause. "And a woman who does not enjoy being looked at unless she controls the angle." "Then why hire a photographer?" This time Vittoria did smile, just barely. "Because you're very good at catching the angle women fail to control." I hated when she was right. I hated more that she knew it. "Be careful," she added as I pushed back my chair. "With the resort owner?" "With yourself, Dahlia." She always left the heaviest sentence behind. The next morning, I drove down the coast with my camera bag in the passenger seat and a stupid amount of optimism in my chest, the kind of optimism that forgets it's made of overconfidence. Casa Azzurra appeared like something out of a postcard someone rich had commissioned from God. White stone terraces, bougainvillea climbing over arches, blue shutters catching morning light, a private path toward the sea, waves striking the cliff below in a rhythm that somehow sounded expensive. A young assistant met me at the entrance. "Miss Voss?" "Dahlia's easier. She's expecting you." That's always slightly threatening when people say it like that. The assistant blinked, then kept walking without smiling. I liked her immediately. We passed through a high-ceilinged lobby full of white orchids and old photographs, brides, politicians, one grainy black and white shot of a young Serena Vale beside an older woman with the same dark eyes and severe profile. Family. The kind of history you can feel in a building before anyone explains it to you. Staff were arranging flowers on the central terrace, setting up for the gala. The assistant led me past them toward the upper suites. "She's in the bridal suite," she said. "There's a wedding tomorrow?" "Yes." "She's meeting with investors." "In the bridal suite." "Yes." I should have taken that as a sign of something. Instead, I followed her upstairs because curiosity has always been a flaw I mistake for a personality trait. The bridal suite door was slightly open. I assumed that meant, "Come in." On the other side, Serena Vale, one hand around another woman's wrist, body angled so close that the air between them looked like a secret. The contract on the vanity had the resort letterhead across the top. "Transfer of controlling interest." The blonde woman's voice was tight and low. "You can't keep doing this." Serena's grip tightened. "Watch me." "You think desire fixes everything?" "No. I think you came here because you wanted me to ask you not to do this." And then my camera clicked. The blonde woman recovered first. She smoothed the front of her ivory jacket with almost elegant panic and looked at me with the specific horror of someone who had not budgeted for a witness. I knew her face. Isabelle Laurent, private equity, European Hospitality Board member, rumored ex-wife of a famous banker. More importantly, Serena Vale's lead investor, and the woman expected to broker the sale of Casa Azura by the end of the week. Serena did not look away from me. "Give me the camera," she said again. "No." One eyebrow lifted. I adjusted the strap on my shoulder. "I'm a photographer. If you wanted someone easy to intimidate, you should have hired a florist." I watched something move across her face. Not quite amusement, but the cousin of it. Isabel exhaled. "Serena, leave us." "That's not wise." "No, but it's necessary." Isabel glanced at the contract, then at Serena, then at me. Something passed between them. Not just anger, not just tension. Old loyalty under fresh damage. Then she picked up the contract and said, "You have until tonight." Serena's expression went flat. "I had until the second you walked in here." Isabel left. The door closed quietly behind her. Just me, Serena, the sea, and the sound of my own self-preservation lodging a complaint. Serena crossed the room with unhurried steps. She was taller up close than in photographs. Dark hair, bare throat, no jewelry except a watch, and one gold ring on her right hand. Her face had the kind of beauty people call severe because they don't have a better defense against it. "Did you take a picture?" "I don't know. It clicked. I haven't checked." "Check it." "No." That stopped her. She studied me for a second. "You enjoy making your own life difficult." "I'm freelance. It's part of the model." The corner of her mouth moved. Not a smile. More like the ghost of irritation running into something it hadn't expected. She held out her hand. "Dahlia Voss." I stared. "That's my name." "Yes, I know." She kept her hand out. I took it. Bad decision. Her grip was firm, her palm cool. The kind of handshake that tells you very quickly that control is not something she usually has to ask for twice. "Serena Vale." She released me. "Now, since my assistant has clearly tried to ruin my morning, what did your camera actually see?" "That depends on whether you're going to treat me like a professional or a problem." "Which one are you? Usually both?" That did it. A real smile. Small, brief, gone almost before it arrived. "Show me." I turned on the Leica. The accidental frame was right there. Not the near kiss, not the hand around Isabel's wrist, but the reflection in the vanity mirror had caught enough. Serena in profile, Isabel too close, the contract visible between them. Time stamped. Serena looked at it for a long moment. Interesting. That's not the word I'd use. What word would you use? Potentially catastrophic. Her gaze lifted to mine. And yet, you haven't deleted it. You haven't asked nicely. She took the camera from my hand before I could stop her, not walking away, just standing close, thumb hovering over delete. My pulse jumped once. Don't. Why not? Because if you delete it in front of me, I stop being your photographer and become your liability. A long beat. Then she handed it back. I won't delete it. You won't? Not yet. She moved toward the terrace doors and looked out at the water. The board meets at 6, the gala at 8. By 10, half the people in this building will know whether I'm still the majority owner of my own hotel. She turned back to face me. Isabel wants me to sell Casa Azura. She looked like she wanted more than that. The silence that followed had weight. Then Serena said, "She's on the board. She's also the only investor here who still believes this place should stay mine." That's a complicated position to be in. It is. A pause. The contract was a sale agreement. She wanted me to sign before tonight. And you? I wanted her to stop asking. The way she said it, flat, tired, not asking for sympathy, made the room feel less like scandal and more like a bruise that had been there for a long time. She looked at me steadily. You can leave. Take a fee for the inconvenience and pretend this morning never happened. That's the kind of offer that only sounds simple if you have very good lawyers. Her eyes stayed on my face a beat too long. And the other option? We do the shoot. You treat me like a professional. I act like the camera only saw what you approve, and if you still hate me by the end, I'll send Vittoria a full complaint. The name landed. You know Vittoria well, she asked. Well enough to survive her. That's not the same as knowing her. No, it's harder. She almost smiled at that. Then she nodded. Fine. We do the shoot. We started on the West Terrace, and this is where things became less professional for me. Serena Vale in front of a camera was, at first, a precise and exhausting performance. Too still, too composed. She gave me expensive elegance when I needed something alive. Turn slightly, I said. She turned exactly 2 degrees. That's not a turn. It's sufficient. It's a loophole. Her eyes moved to mine. Do you always talk this much while working? Only when the subject is beautiful and stubborn. A small pause. I kept my face neutral. The sea behind her caught the late morning light in long strips of silver. Her blouse moved in the breeze. I adjusted the lens. Stop performing, I said. I'm standing. You're performing standing. They're different. And what do you actually want? The woman who looked like she was about to kiss a board member into changing her mind. That hit harder than I meant it to. Her jaw tightened. Her breath shifted. I raised the camera. Hold that. Click. The first real shot of the day. After that, something changed. Not dramatically. She didn't melt. She didn't start confiding. She didn't become someone easier. But she stopped showing me the version of herself that existed for press releases. She started giving me the in-between moments. A glance toward the sea when she thought I wasn't watching. A breath moving through her shoulders before she caught it. The way her hand rested on the stone balustrade a second longer than she needed it to. By noon, we moved inside to the old bar. Cool shadows, amber bottles, old photographs behind the counter. Sit, I said. That sounded like an order. It was. And if I refuse? I tell Vittoria you wasted my best light. She sat. And then, slowly, reluctantly, she smiled. I took the shot before she could stop it. What was that? She asked. The first picture you're going to secretly like. You sound very certain. I'm good at my job. She looked down at the counter, then back at me. Who taught you that? My rent. A short laugh escaped before she could stop it. It changed her whole face, opened something that had been held shut all morning. I almost forgot to breathe. Then I heard footsteps. Isabel stood in the doorway, changed into a pale gold dress. Her gaze moved from Serena to me to the camera. Am I interrupting? Yes, Serena said. No, I said at the same time. Serena looked at me, not warmly. Isabel folded her arms. The board wants a decision before the gala. I know. Then sign the sale. No. The room dropped 10 degrees. Isabel looked tired now, not cold. Tired. This place is bleeding, she said. This place is mine. It's drowning, Serena. It's not a body you get to carry away while it's still breathing. Silence. I shouldn't have been there for that, but I was. And the way Serena said it, not loud, not emotional, just completely final, made something clear to me for the first time. Casa Azura wasn't a business problem to her. It was family, grief, identity. Selling it wouldn't be a strategic decision. It would be a funeral with better catering. Isabel glanced at me, then looked away. Then, more quietly, to Serena. If you don't announce something tonight, they'll force the vote. Let them try. Isabel's eyes closed for just a second. When she opened them again, the softness was gone. I came here to save you. Serena's expression didn't change. You came to save the building. Isabel left without another word. I lowered the camera. Serena stood with her back to the bar, perfectly still. You can say it, she said. Which part? That this is none of my business. I looked at her, then at the empty doorway, then back at her. It stopped being none of my business when your ex, almost someone, and a sale contract ended up in my camera. That got her. You think she's my ex? You think she isn't? For once, Serena Vale looked genuinely caught. She was, she said quietly. A long time ago. And now she's the only person on the board who understands what this hotel means to me. A pause, which makes her the most dangerous person in the building. The afternoon light shifted across the bar. I set the camera down. Why did you ask for me? I said. Specifically. She looked at me carefully, like she was deciding how honest to be. Vittoria showed me a portrait she had you shoot 3 months ago. She held my gaze. Everyone else photographs her like power. You photographed her like a woman who had survived it. That got under my skin in exactly the wrong way. I wanted to know, Serena said, what you'd see in me. The room went quiet. Late light touched the amber bottles behind the bar. And? She asked. I stepped a little closer. Not much, just enough. A woman who mistakes control for safety, I said. A woman who would rather bleed quietly than let anyone call it weakness, and someone who's terrified of losing this place, because without it, she'd have to figure out who she is. Serena went still, not angry, not defensive, just still. Then, you're reckless. Usually. And dangerously close to being right. That too. We did the last set at sunset on the lower terrace, just above the sea. Staff were lighting candles for the gala. Warm bulbs glowed overhead. Music drifted up from the garden below. The whole hotel looked like it was about to host a beautiful lie. Serena stood against the balustrade. I adjusted the lens. Look at me, I said. She did. That was when I knew I was in trouble. Not because she was beautiful. She'd been beautiful all day. But for the first time, she was looking at me without anything between us. No performance, no armor, nothing managed. Click. The shot was perfect, maybe too perfect. Because the second after I took it, a voice came from the upper terrace. Male, loud, the kind of loud that comes from never having been told to be quiet. Serena! Her eyes closed for 1 second. Stay here, she said. No. Her gaze came back to mine. I'm already involved, I said, and I have the camera. She looked at me for a long moment, then turned and walked upstairs. I followed. The board had gathered in one of the private reception rooms. 3 men, 2 women, Isabel at the far end, and enough tension to power a small city. One of the men held up a folder. The board has agreed to proceed with the transfer tonight. No, Serena said. You no longer have the votes. Isabel looked at him sharply. That isn't final. He ignored her. It will be. Then his gaze moved to me, to the camera, and he said, with the particular satisfaction of someone about to play a card they've been holding all day. If you intend to claim coercion, perhaps you'd like to explain the private negotiations in the bridal suite this morning. The room shifted. His eyes stayed on my camera. My pulse kicked hard, and Serena, who had been many things today, cold and careful and briefly, terrifyingly honest, went still in a way that told me she was furious. Not for herself, for me, because he'd looked at me like I was something to be used. The negotiations were not private, she said. He smiled. Really. I took a breath. Then I stepped forward. Every eye in the room moved to me. I've never loved that part. I've never hated it either. My camera has a timestamp, I said. I lifted the Leica and turned the preview outward. 9:52 this morning. The contract was unsigned. Still on the vanity. If anyone's claiming a deal was reached before tonight's vote, that claim doesn't hold. The man's face changed color. Isabel crossed the room and held out her hand. I gave her the camera. She reviewed the frame quietly, then turned to the room. This proves Serena had not agreed to the transfer. Any motion based on prior consent is void. She handed the camera back to me. And if someone has been circulating the opposite story to influence this vote, I'd suggest they leave before I make the rest of this evening legally interesting. The room came apart. People scattered. Voices dropped. Damage control started. When it was just the three of us, Isabel handed the camera back and looked at Serena for a long moment. "Keep the hotel?" she said quietly. Serena's throat moved. "I was planning to." Isabel nodded. Then she walked out. No drama. No last look. Some endings are too exhausted to be theatrical. The door closed. Serena turned to me, just looked at me. The gala music floated up from below. Candlelight moved through the open terrace doors. "You should be downstairs," I said. "So should you." "Probably." Neither of us moved. Then she crossed the room and stopped in front of me. No contract, no board, no audience. Just the woman I'd been photographing all day and the expression she'd finally stopped hiding. "You had every opportunity to walk away," she said. "You say that like it was a good option. Wasn't it?" "No." She was quiet for a second. Then, softer. "Dahlia." My name in her mouth had been measured all day. Professional. A tool she used to keep distance. This time it sounded like something else. "If I ask you something," she said, "will you answer honestly?" "When haven't I?" That almost smile again, the one I'd been collecting all day without meaning to. "Have you been looking at me like this all day?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." And if I asked whether that was professional, I'd say absolutely not. A beat. Then she smiled. Small, brief, real. She stepped closer, close enough that salt air and her perfume and warm light blurred into one thing I was going to think about for a long time. "And if I asked to kiss you?" she said. There it was. Clear. Clean. Adult. Not assumed. Asked. I looked at her for 1 second, maybe 2. Then I said, "I'd say yes." She didn't rush it. She lifted one hand slowly enough for me to stop her. I didn't. Her fingers touched my jaw. Her thumb rested lightly at the edge of my cheek. And then Serena Vale kissed me like a woman who had spent all day refusing herself exactly this. Careful at first, almost restrained. Then not. My hand caught the front of her blouse. Hers moved to my waist. The room tilted just enough to make the rest of the hotel irrelevant. When she pulled back, her forehead rested close to mine. "That was unwise," she murmured. "Business-wise?" "Yes." "Personally?" A pause, the smallest exhale against my mouth. "Worse." I smiled. She looked at me like she might do it again. Maybe she would have. But from below, someone called her name. The gala, the hotel, the life she still had to step back into. Serena straightened slowly. Her hand stayed at my waist for 1 beat longer than it needed to. "Come downstairs with me," she said. "I asked That sounds dangerous?" "It probably is." I picked up my camera. "Good. I was starting to worry this day had gotten too simple." She laughed. Low, real, Quick! If I'd been holding the camera differently, I would have taken the shot and framed it. Instead, I followed her downstairs. To the gala. To the version of herself she wore for the world. The cold resort owner, the woman who kept the hotel, the one who looked unbeatable in candlelight. But later that night, after the speeches, after the board, after the sea turned black and the last guests drifted out into the warm dark, Serena Vale found me again. She closed the bridal suite door behind us. Not like a threat, like a decision. And she asked me to take one more photograph. Not for the investors, not for the press, not for the hotel, for her. That photograph is not in the YouTube version. Neither is what happened after she stood in the moonlight with her hair down, her blouse open at the throat, and looked at me like the camera was no longer the only thing she wanted to hold.